Broadcasting from the Hip Hop Weekly Studios, I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Civic Cipher, where our mission is to foster allyship, empathy, and understanding. I am your host, Ramses Ja.
He is Ramses Ja. I am Q Ward. You are hopefully, happily listening to Civic Cipher.
Yeah, I hope you are too. We have a great show in store for you. There's a lot of things that we want to talk about and we will ultimately talk about, but this episode we feel like that we've heard and seen so much nonsense online that
lots of misinformation.
Yeah. So we're going to take this episode and we're going to discuss the right's attack on Kamala Harris and decide whether or not that's well-founded.
I love hearing you say Kamala, not Kamala, as our former president says very intentionally.
I know that I mispronounce names wrong all the time.
Not on purpose, though.
Yeah, but I feel like, he does it on purpose.
He does it intentionally. Yeah. All of us mispronounce people's names all the time.
But I was going to get this one right. So, Kamala Harris. But yeah, the right has these really strange attacks on her. Some of them really gross. Some of them are just they're unfounded.
And unfortunately, not all by the right.
Yeah. And we're going to share what those attacks are. And then for the second part of the show, we are going to discuss the black attack on Kamala Harris. And these are some things that, it's important for you to know about, because there are some people who would listen to voices be critical of Kamala Harris if those voices were black voices, because then it removes the racial bias. So these are potential allies listening to their black people they look up to. And if those black people are then critical of Kamala Harris, then those allies might think I should be critical of Kamala Harris too. And a lot of their arguments are unfounded as well. And so we're going to go through a lot of the things you might have seen online in today's episode. But before we get there, we're going to start off, as always, with some Ebony Excellence.
Shall we?
I think you shall.
Today's Ebony Excellence, sponsored by Actively Black. There is greatness in our DNA. Visit activelyblack.com. Shout out to Actively Black. They are in Paris for the Olympics right now.
Nice.
As they were the apparel builder for Team Nigeria. This story comes from ESPN. The smile on Simone Biles' face at the end of her floor routine said it all. As she blew kisses to a crowd erupting in USA chants, it was clear that her score on the event was merely a formality. Performances by Biles and the United States teammates Sunisa Lee, Jordan Childs, and Jade Carey throughout Tuesday's women's gymnastics team final had left little doubt about the outcome. But moments after the 27-year-old Biles walked off the floor at Bercy Arena as the final gymnast on the final event of the night, her score of 14.666 flashed on the screen and made it official. The U.S. team had won the gold medal and were back on top of the gymnastics world yet again. With a final total of 171.296, the Americans defeated Italy, the silver medalists, by nearly 6 points, and there was an almost 7-point gap to bronze medalist Brazil. It was the fourth time that American women have claimed gold in the event, but the first since 2016. The gold medal follows a surprising silver finish in Tokyo 3 years ago, when Biles ultimately withdrew from the competition following vault, the team's first event, due to the twisties. With Biles, Childs, and Lee returning to the team, and with Carey having been in Tokyo as an individual competitor, they had all talked about redemption and wanting to prove themselves and the world what they were capable of doing together. They contemplated calling themselves the Redeem Team, but ultimately just decided to let their gymnastics do the talking, and this time everything was different, and it is great to see the GOAT back on top, recovering from the twisties.
Talk to him. Okay. The right's attacks, plural, on Kamala Harris. So, one of the things that we hear a lot is, what is her record as a politician? Now, I want to share with you something. In putting together this episode, we took some content from social media, right? Because you've undoubtedly come across a lot of people sharing content talking about how Kamala Harris locks up black people for weed charges and how Kamala Harris is not black and all kinds of weird stuff, right? And I'll be honest, even some of that stuff I fell for. Now, that's not to say that Kamala Harris is a perfect person. I cannot say that. And the most perfect person for any job is Ramses, in Ramses' opinion, right?
Important to say when you say you fell for it, because I think this is very, very important context just to help our listeners understand how similar they are to even us. And we do this all the time. When we felt susceptible to some of these same lies, we were looking for the perfect candidate, just like you are, right? And what that does to us is we cannibalize each other. We poke holes in one another. We hold each other under such high levels of scrutiny that no one lives up to it. And those that oppose us do not do such a thing. So it kind of handicaps us in these cases. While we're looking for perfect, they've already
accepted all the flaws of their candidate.
Not only that, but they've fortified them. They've made that person impenetrable, impregnable, and undefeatable. That you can't say anything wrong, because not only do they know it, but they accept it and they praise it, and it's kind of they turn it into a rallying cry. So when you say you fell for it, it's not that you were duped. It was like, okay, this is another reason why she's not the perfect candidate. This is who I would vote for. And in a lot of cases, some people are not out to hate her. They're just looking for ideal. And unfortunately, we cannot afford to be idealist. We have to be
realist
on the realist and on the side of what's best for us. So when you say you fell for it too, it wasn't because you were susceptible to conspiracy or easy to dupe. It was you're just like some of our listeners. You wanted us to have the best candidate possible. So anyone poking a hole in the case of the candidate that you didn't have at the top of your list, without even researching, you just grab a hold to that point and say, okay, that's what I needed. Or that's what I needed. So
let me give you that, and let me give everyone this, just so that you understand how susceptible all of us are to these sorts of things. Now, a little different. I'm gonna give you some context. When Kamala Harris first ran for president, I was all the way in the deep end for Bernie Sanders, right? Politically, so for people that say, oh, you're just voting for her because she's black, Bernie's not black. Bernie was talking the way that I wanted a candidate to talk. And Kamala Harris, this is what I thought at the time, because this was what was shared online, right? So I fall for it too, much of a journalist as I try to be. Kamala Harris was locking up all the black people.
This is also what I thought. Very early in our journalist journey.
That's fair. But that's what I thought. Right? And then now that, but Bernie was my guy. So there was no way I was picking anyone else. I wasn't picking Joe Biden until Joe Biden was the only choice.
And it was also easy to believe that a prosecuting attorney
would lock up black.
Attorney general
that comes with the job.
Would lock someone up, even if it wasn't specifically black. Okay, that's what she does for a living. So that makes sense. She's locking us up.
I don't really rock with the police in the long way like that. So Bernie Sanders wasn't saying that, and she was. So that was a very simple choice for me, right? But now that I have to have a critical examination, and there's no Bernie Sanders around, it's just her or Donald Trump. Now that I'm forced to really look at what happened there, I end up with a show like today's show. And again, where online you might find some folks that are saying Kamala Harris did this and Kamala Harris did that. I promise you, on today's show, Ramses did the research. Q did the research. So we got something for you, and we will cite as many of our sources as we can, but we do know that, we're radio broadcasters, but a lot of this stuff lives in an online space, so we're responding in kind. We are going to share some videos with you of some folks who started us on our research journey, and they gave us the places to look.
And you can do your due diligence as well.
Absolutely.
Fact check us, don't have to follow us up. You don't have to just take our word for it.
But here we go. We're going to start with what is her record as a politician. This is a primary attack on the right. So let's go.
I don't need politicians to state things. I need politicians to do things.
This message is for Amanda Seales and Amanda Seales only. Since you have a lot of questions about things that Kamala and her team have done, I figured I'd take the liberty to outline some of the bills that she introduced when she was a senator. The COVID Bias and Anti-Racism Act of 2020, the Water for Tomorrow Act of 2020, Improving Pandemic Preparedness and Response Bill, the Save Our Street Act, Monthly Economic Crisis Support Act, Closing the Mill Gap Act of 2020, the Black Maternal Health Act of 2020, that's a good one, the Accountability for Utilities Executive Act. Now that one stopped people from getting golden parachutes if the utility company was going through a merger, acquisition, or bankruptcy of any kind, so they couldn't get paid out and everybody else got let go. The Ending Homelessness Act of 2019, Then we got hold on. Wait a minute. It's, hold on. I can't read that fast. Wait a minute. You get the point though. Honestly, it's time for a new class of influencers. Those that find more answers than ask questions. Those that care about the communities and providing them with information and factual data. I'm tired of the contrarian rhetoric I've seen on this app from our own people when it comes to politics, and it's time for something new.
Okay. So we want to give credit to this.
So Isaac Hayes posted that. The guy's name was Easy Shot 04, and I think that might have been from a TikTok. I'm not sure.
That's
but Isaac Hayes the third, that was on his Instagram, so you can start there
and then
trace your way backwards.
So that just leaving the footprints for you to go back. But obviously, he said as much can fit in a TikTok, and then toward the end, he's like, I can't read that fast. You couldn't see it, but visually there were just more and more things.
A bunch of bills that she either sponsored or authored.
Yeah. That
were beneficial to marginalized communities all over this country.
So this is her record as a politician. Again, these are attacks from the right. Another attack from the right is, what has she done as vice president? We have another video that we're going to share here. And this is just, this comes from D.L. Hughley. And there's rather more in this video than just what she's done.
And shouts to D.L. for his level of self-accountability and honesty with regards to our vice president.
Exactly. Because what you're about to hear is, this makes it okay to say, you know what, I might have been wrong. If you are one of those people that has been like in my comments saying, Ramses, what are you talking about? I'm talking about, look, we can't give this country over to Project 2025. And
first and foremost,
and another Trump presidency, right? Because then we're fixed in that, and lock and step into that direction in perpetuity, and the rest of my life will look like that. You know what I mean? I'm about halfway through, probably more than that. You know, I'm black, so I die young, right?
There's two things with the point that you just made that have become more and more uncomfortable for me daily. One of them is there has been a benefit of the doubt extended to every vice president ever. And then now with her, she's done nothing as vice president, which you don't have to do any research to know that's not true.
Yeah.
There's nobody who done nothing as vice president, even Mike Pence, who neither of us would support. But the idea that someone got to the second highest office in the country and did nothing.
Yeah, it's not a vacation. You don't just hang out and kick it in the office.
You're not just chilling.
Yeah.
But, and secondly, those both sides of the argument, people who are suggesting that, well, you know, both parties feel like this could be the last election. Well, one party's saying that.
Yeah, and they have a plan.
And have a plan to make that the truth. So, like, we got to stop with this rhetoric.
Okay. All right. So let's get to this, and we want you to listen for what has she done as VP, because it's really brief and really short and a much longer conversation, but it's there. So let's fire this one off.
Kamala Harris did not, in fact, lock up the thousands of people that I said she did. I told that lie, and I have apologized to her. Not only have I apologized, I've said to her, not only am I going to keep apologizing, because I think it did that much damage, I am going to do what I can do to make sure you become the 47th. At this time, I said to her when I apologized, I'm going to make sure you get elected. I didn't say re-elected. I said elected. And now here it is, that opportunity. To me, that is divine. That is something that's supposed to have happened. If you are the people right now who are misquoting her record, we are not the same. If you believe that her locking people up from weed is worse than a man who says he wants to give dope dealers the death penalty, we are not the same. If you want me to remember her past but not Trump's past, we're not the same. If you want to remind me of her record but don't want to talk about Project 2025, have you ever noticed the same black people that want to tell you she sold all this weed and locked all these people up, tell you they don't believe that 2025 is Trump's plan for a second term? There is a reason for that. If you're telling me you're not going to vote for her because she has a white husband, then we're not the same. But if you're going to say she has a white husband, you better have a black wife when you say it. Don't tell me that somebody's Latin or Asian. I think that shouldn't be the predicate anyway. But if you are accusing her marital choices, you better make sure yours are in line with the accusations you make. We are not the same if these are, well, she ain't black enough. I tell you what, she's a black woman. She went to Oakland. She's from Oakland. She went to an HBCU. She's an AKA. She had a boyfriend named Willie. And she got a name, first name that's hard for everybody to pronounce. It sounds different than it's spelled. That's black enough for me. But what I do know for sure is that she can win if we decide it is so. And if that is not your goal, we are not the same. Your we and my we are not the same. Well, she, everything else. I don't care about none of that. I ain't got time to Terry. What I am trying to do is to make sure that I make good on something. I wronged this woman. I lied on her and hurt her reputation. And if you're telling me where was she at for 4 years, you idiot. She's the vice president of the United States of America. And the vice presidency is a ceremonial position. It's a ceremonial position. And your job as vice president is to do what the president says. You think that ain't true? Get a promotion at your job and start talking bad about your boss. See how that works out. You advise anything and you think you would tell the president what to do? It was a ceremonial position. She did what she was supposed to. Being mad at a vice president would be like being mad at the backup quarterback because the quarterback threw an interception. And you know that to be true. You are saying all these things because whatever you have on your mind, whatever your mindset is, it is not the same as mine. I don't begrudge you for how you feel, but I ain't got time to play with you. My goal is to make right something I did wrong. It is to make sure I keep my word. And I am going to do all I can to make sure that she becomes a black woman, Asian woman, AIP. I know that she's going to be, I'll tell you what, she's black enough to be called a DEI hire by inferior white men. She's black enough for them to challenge her intellect. She's black enough for them to call her promiscuous and say she slept her way to the top. So if you think that those things matter to you, we are not the same. I'm not going to be what it is you are. And I'm not going to have time to argue with you back and forth on the internet. Because unlike you, I believe I am my sister's keeper.
Okay, so listen. Vice presidency, ceremonial position, right?
Appointed
There
by
you
the
go.
president.
There you go.
The voice you heard, however, D.L. Hughley, posted by Joanne Reed.
Okay, perfect. Also want to let you know that we will talk about the quote-unquote thousands of black men that she supposedly locked up, and we will talk about what she's done for black people. So stay tuned for that. But right now, while we're here, I wanted to make sure that we answered those two questions about her record as a politician, what she's done as VP, because right now these are specific to just the rights attacks on her. Now, these are all things that we had to confirm, and if it's not confirmed yet, we'll have it for you in the second half of the show, those that are able to listen. Now we shift over to Time Magazine, and you can just Google time.com and it'll all be there.
This is disgusting, by the way.
Okay, so Time Magazine has an article where they go through a lot of claims that are made against Kamala Harris that are shared widely on the right. And if you're one of those people that comes across this, you might want to re-examine your algorithm because you might be being served bad information. But these are fact-checked by Time Magazine, which is a bigger and longer standing institution than they've been around before me and you both born put together, right, Q? So they're not playing with this. So I trust journalistically credible sources in doing this show here. And Q is we're the same here.
Indeed.
Right? All right. So the claim, and this according to Time Magazine, the claim is that Kamala Harris got her start by having an affair with a married man, California politician Willie Brown. And this is what kind of led that guy on Fox News to say she was the original Hawk Tuah girl, which is
disgusting.
That's just a gross thing to say. Now, when we look at her, she's older than we are, so we look at her and no matter what, we'll have a degree of reverence for her. That's just kind of how it works around here. That was foul for him to say that, but doesn't matter how I feel. The facts are that, again, it's from Time Magazine. This is missing some important context. Brown was separated from his wife during the relationship, which was not a secret. Brown, 90, is a former mayor of San Francisco who was serving as Speaker of the California State Assembly in the 1990s when he and Harris were in a relationship. Not sleeping or way to the top. They were in a relationship. Brown had separated from his wife in 1982.
Their relationship was in the 1990s. He got separated 8 years prior to 1990.
All right. He wrote that he supported Harris's first race to be San Francisco district attorney, just as he had supported a long list of other California politicians, including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, former Senator Dianne Feinstein, and Governor Gavin Newsom. Harris, 59, was state attorney general from 2011 to 2017 and served in the Senate from 2017 until 2021 when she became vice president. She has been married to Doug Emhoff since 2014. Harris's critics have used the past relationship to question her qualifications, as Fox News personality Tommy Tommy Lauren. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. When she wrote on social media in 2019, quote, Kamala, did you fight for ideals or did you sleep your way to the top with Willie Brown, unquote. Loren later apologized for the comment. Trump and some of his supporters have also highlighted the nearly 3-decade-old relationship and recent attacks on Harris. I want to add one more thing here, which is that we saw the appointments that Willie Brown, quote unquote, gave her to advance her career. And everything that was reported on this is simply her being appointed to committees because that was the job that she did and she had the qualifications to do that job. Now, I want to add one last thing here because this is particularly insulting for all women. People date who's close to them. The number one predictor of success in a relationship is proximity. And you tend to be close to people that share your passion, share your work schedule, and are, generally speaking, more or less around the same age and have the same sort of viability, right? And so dating people in the workplace is not uncommon. She didn't advance her career. She got committee positions, I think 2 of those, and that's it. So this narrative is hurtful and gross and foul. I got to get through these last couple real quick. Another claim is that Harris is not an American citizen and therefore cannot serve as commander-in-chief, and the facts is completely false. Harris is a natural-born U.S. citizen. She was born October 20th, 1964 in
Oaktown,
according to a copy of her birth certificate obtained by the Associated Press. Another claim, an Inside Edition clip of television host Montel Williams holding hands with Harris and another woman is proof that Harris was his, quote, side piece. The facts, the clip shows Montel with Harris and his daughter, Ashley Williams. Harris and Williams and Montel Williams' daughter were in the photo together, and people, it just looks, because he's holding both of their hands, it looks, because his daughter is like kind of tall. And so people...
I mean, she's an adult. So
right.
He's with 2 adult women.
That he loves.
But one of them is his
family.
daughter. The other one was the person he was in a relationship with at the time.
Okay. And then there's also other things, please check out the article, but there's like all kinds of stuff floating around online where it makes her look like she's unintelligent. She's like rambling on about things like she doesn't know what she's talking about. Those are edited. There's a ton of gripes associated with this. I'm short on time here. But a lot of these Republican attacks on Kamala Harris are entirely fabricated. And they're not based in a morally just reality or indeed reality, period. And that's just the beginning, middle, and end.
Acting in good faith. And just a point of clarification, when I said Oaktown, I meant Oakland, California, USA.
There it is. So we're going to be back, obviously, with more because the black attack is real. And we definitely have to talk about that, too.